So, we're going to talk a lot more about skills on Thursday, but, at the very, basic baseline, just set those clear expectations, provide and receiving feedback, active listening and questioning. And I think this is a big one. And it's really hard sometimes to do. Listen, don't you think? It's difficult. But it's important. And also having questions, asking questions that are sort of open-ended questions, so that you can have that coaching conversation, and creating a psychological safe place. So if you're a good coach, you will. It'll just happen, right? What do I mean by that? Psychological safety. What do you think that looks like in the real world? Like if you've got someone in front of you and you're about to have a conversation with them.
Trust.
Trust.
Any relationships also trust.
Yeah. You've got to make them feel comfortable and safe to say what they want to say, to take on negative feedback or, constructive feedback. So, and that also goes to that really understanding the person who's in the room, because we all know we have different personalities and we all know we respond to communication in different ways. So being, really aware of who's in the room when you're talking to them is important. It's not a one fits all, remember? Yeah. Okay, so I've got a couple of more exercises for you. It's only 20 to 3, so we're doing quite well. Now, what I'd like you to do is to have a group discussion. I'll put you in breakouts again around how do managers maintain team performance. So I thought we'd touch on this because there is that connection, right? I know this is very much focused on the appraisals or the performance reviews, annual ones, but I think it's really important as managers to have the skill to be able to actually be prepared from a team perspective as well, because it actually can make a conversation easier with an individual. So what I want you to do is to, just have a discussion, talk about, how managers maintain performance within a team from a team perspective. Is that okay? Are we clear? All right, we're all back. Okay, so maybe we'll start with someone online. Let's go with team group 2. You're going to share how do managers maintain team performance?
I think they're still going, does it sound like? I'll give Nick a tap on the shoulder, huh?
Is that Callum?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we're ready.
Who from our team's going to respond? Is it Warren, you're going to do that?
Yeah, I can do it, okay.
Okay.
We were talking about how teams perform. Obviously, we're talking about strengths and weaknesses in a team. Something Nick raised was about acknowledging where you're falling down and understanding the lessons that can be learned, and constructive criticism is a positive feedback, not as a negative feedback. If you're open to conversation, I think, and you can salvage a relationship and get it to grow. You got to mentor that and foster that relationship equally upstream and downstream. I think that's important in building teams. Not everyone's going to get it right every single day. And I think having trust that you're going to get the support, and obviously managers, we trust managers above us, but then obviously we trust down as well. So we've got to trust,
Yep.
two-way street.
Yeah.
And I think getting teams to trust each other is just like it's the most important part of the project.
Mhm. So you mean individual, teams trusting other teams?
Well, yeah, well, you're like, for example, our site team, we trust each other. We do our
Yeah.
performance reviews. We have our subcontractor meetings. We have our program meetings. So we have an internal trust, and then we have a stakeholder trust to our subcontractor. And
Fantastic.
and
Absolutely.
as far as PDRs go, or performance review development, I think you've got to trust and you've got to have open conversation and you've got to be willing to go, hey, I might not have it right this time, but I'm getting guidance. And I think if you can listen and be open to guidance and not shut it down, and I think you're open to a higher learning curve than just in isolation.
Absolutely. Yep. Great point. Okay. Team 1?
Yep. So much of the same. Got some points here. Fostering an environment that allows cross collaboration and a bond between the team. So also creating a process where you can have a team environment, whether it's weekly or whatever it may be. That allows team buy-in, so you're all at the same table, and then as a manager, I guess having that ownership in that setting. Communicating the goals, so having transparent communication, so everyone's on the same page. One thing I mentioned was celebrating the team success. So it's not one individual, or if there is individual, recognizing that, but also recognizing the team success. Establishing a rapport.
How do you do that? How do you do that here? Can you give me an example of that?
There might be an individual thing on site. There might be a specific thing on site that leads to a milestone success event. So while you might, in the fine detail, have individual success, when you hit those overarching milestone successes, you sit down with the team and you recognize that. And I guess I don't know, I don't go into, I find it was very, very beneficial in recognizing the team as a whole rather than individuals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's very empowering, and it actually just drives, the team to collaborate and work together even more, celebrating success together.
Yep.
Excellent. Anything else?
The last 3 points we had: steering the ship from a strategy, setting an example within the team, and discussing and learning mistakes. So pulling apart when we do make mistakes.
Yep. Perfect. Very good. Thank you. Okay, bring it in-house. What have we got?
I'm going to go. So our group touched on a number of those points. I suppose we touched on it already, but not accepting individuals' poor performances with creates kind of risk to the group themselves. From a manager's perspective, it's that consistency in that communication piece as well.
Mm-hmm.
Those clear comms. Jordan mentioned bringing the energy.
Yes.
Not just being the heavy.
Oh, absolutely.
It's bringing the energy into the room as well.
Yeah, I love that. Definitely.
Clear goals and accountability. And I think Zan might have mentioned it, but celebrating those wins. Celebrating the victories. Through the process. And then I suppose asking the bigger questions rather than trying to bring all the answers into the room.
Yeah.
So allowing people's advice and experience to be shared across the table rather than trying to drive your own understanding of the topic that you're talking to.
No, No, that's inspiring. You know, if people are able to contribute their own ideas, they feel connected straight up, you know, so they feel part of the team rather than just a, you know, cog in the wheel sort of situation. Yeah.
Again, probably the simplistic stuff, but bringing culture through trust in that relationship. I think Mr. mentioned allowing individual team members to lean on each other rather than them always having to rely on the full group, but there's almost those individual relationships within the broader team.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then just that human element of knowing the person behind the title, kind of sharing as much as possible with that human element.
Yeah, that's true, because we all have strengths, right? And we all have, I don't like the word weakness because, you know, it gives a negative tone straight out. But, you know, we all have things that we're naturally better at than others. So, you know, part of good teams is building on people's strengths, not focusing on their weaknesses. You know, we tend to go to that. But if we can look at everybody as individuals and actually, you know, take the time to consider, well, what strengths do they have? So some people may be, you know, more reserved, but actually there may be a time and place that is what's needed. So, you know, seeing that as a positive, not a negative, you know, or whether they're more analytical or whether they're better at communication, you know, and absolutely looking at your team and looking at, you know, what can each individual bring to make this team whole and productive. Yeah. So I like that. Good. Yep.
Okay, so we had communication is key.
Yeah.
Share information, meet regularly and plan.
Yeah.
Leading by example. Ensuring the same rules apply to all individuals. Everyone working to an outcome. Ask them what you can do better.
Yeah.
And set small, consistent goals rather than a mammoth goal that seems unreachable.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, if your long-term goal is, you know, 6 months, then chunking it out and making it more manageable and, you know, more real for individuals to be able to achieve. You know, you get the reasonable and you also get the achievable, you know, which is so off-putting if you look at a goal and you think, how am I going to ever achieve this?
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Something else that we talked about was, and I use the sales and marketing term as an example, is showcasing your role to the wider team.
Yeah, okay.
Especially when you've got new people coming in all the time.
Yeah.
Is, you know, maybe once a quarter somebody showcases, well, what is my role? Because I think there's a lot of this lack of understanding of what people actually do, even in your small team, right? So that could be something that, you know, empowers them to go, well, I can actually talk about what I do. And then people go, oh, wow, I didn't realise that we've had any impact. So that was something else that we
that's such a good point. And, you know, part of the work I do is role clarity as well. And the amount of times I go into an organisation where when I have a one-on-one with people about what their role is, they often raise that they don't know what other people's roles are. You know, they're interested to know because they're interested to know how they fit and how also they may be able to leverage from that person because of what they do. So there's a lot of, you know, positive, you know, outcomes from having role clarity. And so that's a top idea. You know, even just if you have your weekly meetings or once a month, maybe somebody has, you know, 15 minutes to talk about their role and what it is they do and how they got there.
Yeah.
You know, it's good. Excellent. Okay. All right. So yeah. So basically everything you've said is absolutely spot on. You know, So, and we know that KPIs and goals, individual and team, and then team and business, and they need to be aligned, okay? That's how you really drive success and high performance. But also, and I think we all know what SMART goals are, do we? Yes, which is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timelined. So when you're working with if you're trying to give some direction to your staff, then, encourage them to think about their goals in a smart manner, because they're more likely to stick to them, right? Because it's actually going to set clearly out what it is, how I'm going to be measured on this, is it achievable? Because often people have goals that aren't achievable, for various reasons. Is it realistic in the environment I'm working in, with the skills I've got, all those sorts of things, and have I got enough time? And if that's mapped out, then there's very little room for excuse on why you haven't actually achieved your goals. And it just helps them think through it, because remember, people aren't experienced in this stuff. A lot of people aren't. It's not until you get to the higher level that you really start thinking about these frameworks and what I really mean. Lots of people have ideas of what they want to do, but that's where it stops. So you as managers need to be able to help. Regular check-ins, providing that feedback, which we've all talked about, and also, small issues become big if ignored. So I highly recommend seeking support from HR if you need it. And I'll give you a real life example, which I had, which was only a couple of years ago, where I had a situation where there was a bit of a restructure going on in a company, right? And so the managers or the leaders were talking about that restructure along with the general manager, and they were dealing with the team that was actually going to be restructured. There was no indication back to human resources at all about this restructure, for reasons that, may have seemed viable at the time. But what happened there is we had an employee then that needed to go on performance management, right? And the employee didn't respond very well to that. And this is because HR didn't have all the background, right? So the next day, that employee didn't turn up for work. So they were missing. Their partner couldn't find them. They're like, so it was quite a scary situation. And I guess my point here is, so what happened, that turned into a psychosocial hazard issue, which was very expensive to manage, but more so traumatic for everyone, for the person, for the people. All this was because the managers and the leaders and the people discussing that had several discussions with staff around this, but hadn't communicated back to HR. So HR didn't understand what was going on or couldn't give them advice around the risks attached to that. And it was poorly managed, right? So my point is that, it's important to connect to people that have the skills to be able to actually guide you in relation to things around, because, the issue is there was discussion around roles and role clarity, and that is one of the areas that fits under the code, all right? So you just need to be mindful that things in the background, if you're unsure or you're worried or whatever, just tap in to the people that can guide you and get it right, because it can result in things, along the line. Yeah. Okay. Okay. What I wanted to do just before this, before poor performance. So I know I keep talking about it, but poor performance is important in performance management. But I just wanted to show you something that you may be interested in. Excuse my terrible handwriting. But I don't know if any of you have seen the 9-box grid, talent grid, before. Okay, so this is a simple tool that you can also use when you're thinking about your team, right? So this is when we're thinking of team performance. And I've used this throughout my career, and there's not one manager who hasn't embraced it. So I like to share it to managers because I think it's a really good tool. So basically what we're doing here is we're looking at potential versus performance, right? And it's a simple 9-box, very easy. So what we do is we take our people, and I'd often do this after the performance review or before it, but certainly before you start deciding salaries, right? Because it helps you think. The amount of times that I've actually asked managers to go away and provide me with the information they think that, you know, people deserve, whether it's promotion, whether it's salary or whatever. And then they come back and they give me that information, and then I ask them to go and fill this form out. And they're giving someone, you know, a 20% increase who's actually here when they plot them. It's like, well, this doesn't make sense. So it's a really good tool. The purpose is, okay, to look at your people and go, okay, well, where are they? Are they low performing, low potential and low performance? If they're there, what do you think you should do with them? Yeah, you either exit them, but they may be there for another reason, which is very good, a new starter. So it's hard, you know they've got potential from there, but it's hard for you to gauge. So they might be there, or you might just want to put them in, low performance but medium potential, because you know they've got potential to do the job because you've interviewed them and you've accepted them, right? And then you'll look at people here and you'll think, okay, well, their potential is low, but their performance is high. Now, why is that? Yeah.
Skill set.
Training.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a number of things, but one of them would be they're not doing enough. Do you know what I mean? Because they've got high potential. So basically they're high performance, but they've got low potential, meaning they're in a role that's not allowing them to progress. So you need to look at their role and see if there's more you can give them to actually show their potential. So you may be holding them back. And so what you'll probably find is you have quite a few here, which means what does that mean? Medium performance, medium potential.
They're just doing their job to what's required.
Yeah, they're sort of your rocks that you need quite a few of those rocks just to make sure you're keeping things going, and they're the mid-range. They're doing the job, they are demonstrating the team, the GBG team, but maybe not knocking it out of the park, but they're doing their job. They are aligned to a degree, so they're there. And then if we're here, what should we be thinking? High potential, high performance.
Next step.
Exactly. They're the people we promote. They're the people that we need to cuddle, because we don't want them going outside. Okay? And again, here, like high potential, low performance. Well, what's going on here?
Lady.
Yeah. So they need to kick up the you know what, right? So I guess this is just a really, and I can send you, if you like, a snippet of that which goes into more detail. But I find this is a really good tool to then, think about your team dynamics and think about teams. So this is why I'm introducing it in this discussion, because it's just another tool which you can help in terms of managing your team to perform to the ability that you need it to. Yeah. Handling poor performance, I think the reason I talk about it is because it's real. And I don't know if you've ever had the experience of going through something that's an IR issue, but it's not nice. So, as managers, what we try to do is do everything we can to avoid IR issues. And that's for company reputation as well. Yeah, and cost and time and the amount of time you spend managing performance well, honestly, you get it all back. If you have to do an IR issue, then put that on steroids, right? You'll be kicking yourself. Why didn't I just follow the processes and do what I need to do? Okay.